Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of the Success Codes podcast. Thank you for joining me. I am so excited to have a very special guest with me today on the podcast. Her name is Jennifer Donovan. And before I share her incredible bio, I'm going to share a little bit of context. Because if you've been listening to my podcast, if you've been following me since I started podcasting in April 2019, you know that when I have a guest, normally it's someone I know. Normally it's someone who I have a relationship with. Maybe I met them at a networking event like this year and this fall. I had like Kiri and Samantha and Astrid, who I know from networking events here in South Florida, or I've been on their summit before, like Susan Blanton and Anna Kowalski, been on their summit, or one of my mentors like Christina Rice. And when this person popped up, who I don't know at all, we're not in each other's like masterminds. We've never met in person. She lives in California. I live in Florida. When she just randomly sent me, like, she liked my Facebook story, my intuition was like, ask her to be on your podcast. And I did immediately. I didn't like judge it. I didn't think about it. I just was like, would you like to be on my podcast? And she said, I'd love to. And what's so really cool about this story and this journey is if you've been following me, if you've been connected with me, if you listened to the summit piece from the Anna Kowalski summit, one of my huge struggles that I've had in this journey as an online coach and mentor, especially in the spiritual lane, has been comparison. And I've written about it, I've podcasted about it, I've done all the things about it, and I've worked on it really, really hard over the years. So when I read you Jennifer's bio, you can see we're probably similar in terms of like a niche. However, we're all different. And I could sit and go, okay, these are the ways that she's different from me, and da 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 da. She's kids and she lives in California and all these things. But then that's also still comparison. And who the fuck cares? So with pride and with pleasure and super excited, I'm going to read Jennifer's amazing bio and we're going to get to our discussion. Jennifer Donovan is a highly sought after psychic business coach. Through her unique blend of combining psychic channeling, energetic reprogramming, marketing, and simple sales strategy, she helps female entrepreneurs amplify their intuition, magnifying AF, and making fuck tons of money in their business in the most fun, aligned, and easeful way. So welcome, Jennifer. Thank you so much for joining me today. How are you?
I'm so good. Thank you so much for having me. And I love that just, a huge part of my social media is building relationships. And the fact that it was through a story of me just connecting with you, giving a heart, what I love to like go on my socials and just like give love to people and like, with, hope for that, send them abundance vibes and, healing vibes or, help you get client vibes, and how that just my natural desire to connect with people landed this opportunity. So I'm so excited to be here.
That's so cool. I love that. And for people to know, it's like, yes, we're connected on Facebook and I don't even know like how, like who friended who, right? But which is not important, but you're not even like really in my feed, thank you, algorithm that sucks. And so yeah, it's like to know that it's not even like we're always like communicating back and forth. It was truly like out of that. So that's just super cool. Thank you. Thanks for liking my story. So I want to kick off in a little different way because Jennifer has been on another podcast and it was an amazing podcast and it's from March of this year. So it's very recent and it's called the Intuitive Abundance Podcast with Rebecca Davison. I believe there's no D there. And I'm going to put the link to Rebecca's podcast in the show notes because that podcast is incredible. And I definitely want people to go listen to that. If you want to hear more about Jennifer's background and her story before she became who she is today. So I felt like we don't really need to rehash that on this podcast. Let's like take her to a different journey, because I know in the podcast world, at least me personally, and I do believe this is a thing, we all binge people we like. So I'm happy to share the podcast love, and you refer this other podcast and you can go listen to more about Jennifer. But I thought we could talk a lot today about social media. And there's so many ways we could take this conversation, but I'll kick off with just prompting it this way. I feel like you're primarily on Facebook, right? And
Yes.
you built your business on Facebook, right?
Yeah.
All right,
Yes.
so take it from there.
Okay.
Building your
So
business and how you do.
yeah, so I initially started on Facebook by creating a group. So I have a group called the Intuitive Business Lounge. And when I was first coming online with my, I have two businesses. And so when I started my psychic and energy healing business and coaching business, it originally started like I didn't have a community of people within my real life or on Facebook who got the spiritual stuff. I was still in the spiritual closet. I didn't feel comfortable calling myself psychic. I had a lot of people who were like, woo, weird. You know what I mean? Like, so I hid. I created a group. And, here's also the thing. I was noticing I never really found a group that I felt was actually supportive, where you could come in and ask a question and get support without being judged, criticized, put down. Like I just never found a community that I was like, oh, this is mine. So I created one. And I said, well, if I don't find what I like, I'm going to create one and have a space for people who really want, to be able to talk about the woo and money and business without having judgments, and just being a super safe and supportive community. So that's originally how I started, was just in groups, talking about my what I do and bringing people into my own group. So I
And
would
what
go into
year was this too? Just to,
this would have been 2018
okay, cool. Awesome.
was when I originally started that. I also was a full-time teacher. So talking about energy healing, and I want to be able to be myself and be totally just me, and having to be professional because my students may find me on social media, or my principal. Like I went to a new district and my principal was like, yeah, I checked you out on Facebook and did it. So prior to that 2018, I was like, oh my gosh, no one can talk about me. Well, also, like, I was talking about manifesting through your orgasms. Okay, well, my 5th grade students don't need to know about that, right? So it was very
I didn't
like,
know that. That's funny. Yeah.
yeah. So, um, but then I really recognized how that was playing small, and my fears of judgment and my fears of um just, losing my job or things like that really played a role. And I was like, you know what? We're done with this. And I started to be like, all right, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it so my profile, my Facebook personal profile, is my safe space. I don't have to have just a group. So I went through my Facebook, deleted people who, were not aligned. And I brought my people who were in my group, like, hey, I'm also doing things on my personal profile. So it created this really supportive community also on my personal profile. And so now I'm able, I have the group for people who want that community and sisterhood and support, and maybe they don't have it on their personal profile. I have that space for them. But on my personal profile, it's like we're just balls to the walls. Like, you what you see is what you get.
That's amazing. I love it. That's because I have to tell you, in August of 2021, I went to an event and I met this wonderful photographer who photographs orbs and
Mm,
fairies and all that. And I was like, why aren't you posting this? Why aren't you sharing this? And she said, she was so afraid of judgment. So
mhm.
Yeah, it can really hold you back. Wow.
Oh yeah. Well, and that's like has become a big part of how I support people is not giving a fuck what people think.
Mhm.
So like that principal I told you, he actually was like, so wait, what do you do? Like, he had hired me, and then it was my going to move into my classroom day, and he was like, so you're psychic? Like, what is this? And then I was like, yeah, and I totally just owned it. And then his um daughter was into crystals, and we got into this whole crystal talk. And I actually found that there are way more closeted woo people than we even think. So we are so afraid of like judgment from other people, but as soon as I started really just owning it, I have people in my real life coming out of the woodworks and being like, oh my God, you do this? This is so cool. And, like I have my husband's friends' wives, like calling me, and then my husband's friends would be like, hey, can you work on me? I've got something going on. Because when like I do energy healing as well. So it's so fun to like when you just really own your gifts, you own who you are. Um, there's so many like people will just show you how supportive they are and how much they also are into those things.
Right. Now, would you say, because I definitely can resonate with that 100% and have a journey, and I would say my journey was pretty long. How was your journey with that? Would you say there were different levels of really understanding that and accepting that within your body? You know what I
Mhm,
mean?
mhm.
And how was that for you, like as a
Yeah,
trajectory?
so I didn't really come out. So I um really started utilizing my personal profile and coming out more in 2020. That's
Mm,
really when I was just like, we're not holding back anymore.
yeah.
Like, nope, we're done. And in 2000, so I have another business. So I had already had at that time, I think it was like 13 or 14 years of business experience of owning and, running a business. And it was really interesting because online, when you come onto online, it's a totally different mind fuck than a traditional brick and mortar. And so I would be like, we have all the, we have a six-figure business. I know what to do. I know what I'm doing. Like what, but I would notice it was all the mind stuff that were coming up in the energetics of like being seen by more people, and then I had some past life stuff that was tied to me sharing my gifts. So when I released past lives and all the energetic spiritual stuff to being seen and being myself, that's really when 2020, I would say, is when I actually like, here I am, world.
No, I appreciate you sharing that. And so your other business is offline then, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Similar to my husband and I, as I'd say, and then similar to me when I was a sales rep. So yes, getting online was like a whole other like what type
Yes.
of world. And I had a lot of catching up to do. So I love that. So like in 2017 was kind of like your entry. And then in 2020 is when you were like, yes,
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm doing this. I'm showing up. I don't give a shit. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love
So 2018 was when I started my business. And then 2020
that.
was when I was like, all right, I'm here.
You're
we're,
here.
we're going big.
We're going here. And then how long, and I don't like to talk about time, but time is still important. So I always kind of like weave back and forth between, the dimensions, let's say. So how, and I think this is really important for people to understand. So that's why I want you to hear someone else share this too. How long then would you say that it really took the universe to like catch up to that, right? Because you have to go first and
Mhm.
really own it and really be in your body and showing up and being consistent before then, things start to really kick in.
You know, there were it would kick in, but then I would notice I would drop my energy. So it kicked in relatively quickly. Like when I made that decision to go big, that was when I had my first like 10K month, my first 16K month, my first 30K month was relatively quick. But what would happen is then it would drop
Mm.
because
Mm.
it'd be like I'm going bigger, and then my energy couldn't, my energetic capacity, my nervous system, and be like, oh my gosh, I'm exhausted, I can't do it. you know, and I was also working full time, and I have 2 kids. And so there I struggled with juggling it all at the higher level. Like really I would notice like the universe would catch up, but then I would drop. So then the universe, you know, would follow me. And so when I would drop,
Mhm.
the clients, the income, the impact, all that would drop. So one of the biggest things for me was in order for the universe to support you consistently was I had to be able to consistently hold the energy. And so it was like as I grew that ability and that muscle and you know really laying the foundations in my business. Because one of the things that I noticed in 2020 when I was here I am, I didn't have a sustainable business model. It
Mm.
was very much reliant on me live launching. It was very much reliant on me being super high energy. And that's not sustainable when life is lifing or things are going on, or, like my son is in baseball and we've got 3, 4 nights a week at the baseball field. Okay, well, I didn't have a business model that could work like that. So I started like, okay, I'm seeing what needs to actually shift so the universe can support me.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And what were some of those shifts you made, just to give some examples so people.
Yeah, so I used to do all of my calls with clients on Zoom. So I stopped doing Zoom and I did audio calls. This allowed me to I could be sitting at baseball practice doing a client call in the car.
Mm.
I started offering Voxer only packages or Voxer upgrades. So I could be supporting my clients in pockets throughout the day and
Mhm.
not have to be on a call, for an hour or X amount of time.
Right.
I started to do that. I started to really prioritize recurring income and having memberships and programs that allow for the recurring payments for to be able to hold a lot of people without more time from me. So creating programs that were a one to many, that
Mhm.
was a big thing about. And then also creating the foundations of trainings and things that I could reuse that I, could sell, like I would do free master classes and then I would sell it, later at a later date. So having those streams of income that didn't put more hours on my schedule was so critical for that growth.
Yeah, yeah. And thank you for sharing that, because I do feel I've been in this space. Let me back up. I've been in this space long enough to not only know what has happened with me and my journey and the ins and outs and ups and downs, similar to what you said, like you'll have momentum and then all of a sudden, like you, for me, I think I latched that the momentum was like full on kicked in, and so then maybe I let the foot off the gas and then it went so it wasn't and I'm like, oh shit. Like you got to really keep going. And then so I have my own journey obviously, but I also see it with other people now that I've been like in this space. I recognize names and I'm like, you were celebrating pretty damn hard 2 years ago. And what's going on? And that's not from judgment, because like I wanted to say I've been there too. So I think really understanding that and having that awareness around it. So when you feel like you've gone into that space, whatever it is, like for you, reorganizing it into your family life a little better. For me, it was thinking I like hit the jackpot and I wasn't quite maybe there yet, like things like that. So people just start to like realize this, because it's kind of, I'm going to use a big word. It's kind of an epidemic. Like I
Mm.
feel like there's all this
Yep.
and that, and then people get discouraged, and it's unfortunate because we need so many coaches and light workers, and I mean we really do. Like it breaks my heart, the struggle and the pain that's out there, and the more we can band together and help each other to help more and more people is just gonna be, crucial for everything that's going on. I mean, as much as the light expands, the dark gets bigger too. So, we really need to help each other. And then I had this other like random thought that came, but just left, but it'll come back. So yeah, so I appreciate you sharing that, because I find, and I'd love your point of view on this too, in the world of the internet, there's all this celebration, and which kind of compounds the challenge of people giving up when they're not celebrating after 2 months. So,
Right. Well, I think there's also, when I talk about the universe followed quickly after,
Mhm.
it wasn't because like it wasn't because I was just the lucky one that the universe decided to move quickly with. Like I already had 2 years of people and community building relationships. Like, so it wasn't just I came out in 2020 and like I was this magical unicorn and just millions of dollars just dropped into my lap. Like, no, no. I already had not only 2 years of building relationships with people and networking and having like creating this amazing community that it was easy to bring those people onto my personal profile and be like, hey, or, just like, because really 2020 was when things just started popping off. And I think a big part of it was me allowing myself to be bigger.
Mm,
Right. But
mhm.
also I think like I have a business and marketing degree. I have like trainings and success coaching and hypnotherapy and NLP, and I have, energy healing certifications and attunements and all of that stuff. Like like the knowingness, right? I have a now it's been 16 years that I've owned a business. So it's like that's 16, 30, I don't know how old I was in 2020. Let's see. So 35 years of
Right.
experience
Mhm.
building up to that part. And I think that's you know, it's very flashy and it makes sales. And it does like have people look at you when you are like, "Oh my gosh, I was laying in my bathtub and like I just got a dream client." Does that happen? Yes, it can. But it happens because you have built up this thing. Like you've built up your brand. You've done the work so that when you are on vacation, you can make the sales.
Mhm.
Is there a strategy for that? Yeah, but you still had to have built that relationship with a community and built a community in order for that to happen.
Exactly.
And I think there's a lot of in the online space, a lot of flashy numbers, a lot of flashy celebrations, and not enough of the reason this happened is because of all of the things that I did that compounded into this. And I think, one of the things that I'm known for in my community is being very real, raw, and transparent. And like, I'm not going to tell you that, like, I'm just like pooping out like magical streams of income. I mean, like the things that I see, I'm just like, oh my gosh. Now I can read between the lines and I see things, and I've been around the block long enough that like I can call bullshit really easily when I see things, but I think especially when we're in a low or when we're not having the results that we desire, it can get so easy to go into comparison, to go into to tie our self-worth or the, actual quality of our work on our income because we're seeing what other people were saying. Like one of the things I was actually talking to a client today about was, we see a lot of on the online space about talking, or at least my client and I do, about resigns and how like, oh my gosh, this person has stayed with me for 4 years. And there's a lot of like rhetoric around if your clients aren't resigning with you, you're doing something wrong. Right? And I was talking to the client and I was like, dude, if you're not re-signing because you feel complete and
Mhm.
you're like, oh my gosh, this is best. Now I'm going to go integrate it. Like, I did my job. Like,
Mhm.
my job isn't to keep you dependent on me. My job isn't where you can't go and have success on your own without me. That's not
Mhm.
my job. My job is like to help you get to the level that you want to get to and
Mhm.
send you on your way if that feels what is best for you. And if it feels best for you to continue on this journey with me, you know, heck yes, I'm all for that. But I think there's just a lot of where you got to quiet the noise. You got to hide your news feed, not looking at, and it can get hard because social media is all about engagement and relationship building and, connecting on social media. And so if you are going and sending likes and giving love and, all that stuff, you're going to see those things. So
Sure.
being able to have that discernment and also like not internalizing it.
And kudos to you. And did you say it was a client that you were talking to, or like to both of you, quite frankly, for having that conversation, right? Because
Right.
often, we're just internalizing it and don't even have the courage and the confidence to bring it up because then we feel shame that we felt that
Mhm.
way. And it's not happening for us, let's say, in our business. So yeah, that it's very powerful, I believe. That's why I believe in mentorship so much, to have someone that you can call and have that be the conversation. Just get that out of your head. Like just
Right. Yeah.
like
And that's so I have one of my containers that I have is I call it behind the veil. So it's a behind the scenes of my business. And so I
Mhm.
go in there and it's a Voxer broadcast. So I go in and I will drop like things in real time that I'm working on. And my clients love, so all my clients get access to it. And so they love being able to hear the struggles I'm going through or like what I went through and how I worked on it, the exact questions I asked myself, the questions I'm asking my mentor, because I think it's so powerful for them to see that yes, there are struggles. Yes, there are mind fucks. Yes, things happen, payments default, but you're not alone if you're having that. And like, here's how I walk myself through it so that you can quantum leap with me in a
Mhm.
sense, right? Like, you get to have the benefit of learning my lesson before you ever have to experience it yourself,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And so my clients love to be able to, um, you know, have that information because, like I said, part of like who I am is like you're going like I share everything. There's no secrets.
I love that. I love that. And then even if that exact scenario doesn't, relate to you at that moment, you can tuck it in your back pocket in the back of your brain and be like, oh yeah, 6 months later, I remember when.
Yep. And
So
that's exactly what will happen. Like I will
Mhm.
have clients be like, "Hey, so that was so good, and it actually just happened to me now, even though
I'm
you talked
so
about it 6 months
grateful.
ago."
Yeah. Hmm.
And like I totally didn't, or like, okay, there's still a little niggle here, there's still something here. Can we dive into it? And so that's when, we will. So it's like they get to have that either, yes, I can work through it instantly, or like, okay, I've gotten already to this point. Now let's go deeper. And
Yeah.
that's what I love.
Yeah. That's amazing. I love it. I love it. The thing that flew away that came back is something you had said earlier that really resonated with me when I started with energy healing, which was earlier this year. So I'd already been a coach, and then I added a high 70 energy to what I do. And I thought everyone knew what energy work was. I was like, I thought I was the last person to the party. I'm like, everyone's heard of Reiki. Like, I'm sure they'll understand what a high is. And I just like went on this like path of complete crazy assumption. And people were like, what are you talking about? Like energy work? Like I never heard of Reiki. Like, we have no clue what you're talking about. So it was so funny. And now I've embraced that, and I feel like I'm an oversharer. And also too, why I love like meeting other coaches, because to me, the more everyone can share about that, the more we're spreading that information.
Mhm.
And similar to what you were saying is when I started in some different networking groups this summer that are actually more male, I was like, I'm just going to be myself. And if they think I'm crazy, I really don't care. I'm fine with that. And whoever is called to this is called to this. Half the world if they're just not even on the same frequency. They may not even just hear what I'm saying. That's a whole other topic. And it is incredible the amount of people, especially men, that are really interested. They're curious. They're like, can you tell me a little more about that? Actually, more than women. So
Yeah.
it's kind of wild
Well,
in a good
and
way.
a lot, and a lot of that I think has to do with some of the sports and a lot of the high, entrepreneurs, like they talk about some of the woo stuff, visualization.
Mhm.
And, like, Jim Carrey talks about,
Great
his
example.
manifestation process, with Dumb and Dumber. And so many sports players talk about how they have the huge success that they have is because of these things that are more woo,
Mhm.
but are like fully backed by science.
Yeah, completely.
Right.
Completely backed by science. So yeah, so I loved that. I love that you had a similar journey, because that's been my thing this year of like, all right, I'm just going to continue to share away, because even if they're not immediately drawn to it, they're at least learning, and maybe the next person they come across, they'll end up working with, and it's all good at the end of the day. So
Yes.
yeah, so that's so cool. So how was 2023 for you then, in terms of like momentum and all of that fun stuff?
Well, 2023 has been a shit show. Let me just say it that. Okay, so in May, my house flooded. And yeah, it was a whole
Like
thing.
from
So
nature, like a nature
no, for
or
our
ice?
I woke up in the morning and got up to go to the bathroom at 4 a.m. and I stepped in a puddle in my, we have 2 stories, and in my bedroom I'm like, why? Oh, and I'm like, oh no, did the dog like have an accident? And I stepped again. I was like, that water's up to my ankle. Like, what? And our master our master bathroom toilet in the middle of the night, um the chain got caught around and just started overflowing while we were sleeping. And so I woke up at 4 a.m. to our second story, like just flooding. And then half of our downstairs, it was like rain falling through the vents, through the light fixtures, through the ceiling, like just rain falling, like just a total, or I should say water falling, a waterfall. So our other, one of our downstairs bathroom was flooded. And so about 80% of our home was damaged. And so for the last 7 months, we have been navigating I almost daily fighting with like the insurance company and various things that were going on. We were living in a hotel for 3 months, and when you got two home-based businesses, two kids on summer break, and a dog living in a single normal standard hotel room is very intense. My kids, especially my daughter, emotionally was really struggling. So there was a lot of that. And then just, like I said, we've been dealing with, building back our home for the last 7 months. And my growth was not a priority. Stretching myself was not a priority. Showing up live was not a priority anymore. It was taking care of my family and taking care of my clients.
Mhm.
And so I really leaned back into the path of least resistance and looked at where can I reuse social media? Where can I reuse the work that I've already done? How can I repurpose it? How can I, utilize that? So it was like selling programs. I turned one of my live programs into passive, and I was selling the passive. I, really was just promoting things that I've already done. So trainings, free trainings that I've done. I was just, hey, who wants access to this free training? Like,
Yeah.
and so it wasn't about like going and doing a lot of outside things or creating new. It was, what have I already done that I can just reuse? And that's actually, I had my highest cash month in my coaching business in July, in the midst of all of this, in the hotel room while kids are on summer break. Like, all of the things, bouncing from like, my parents' house. We were staying with my parents because for, on the weekends, because my dog couldn't be with us at the hotel. So all this craziness. So, just amongst all of the chaos, we had our highest cash month ever, because I was just reusing things. And what ended up happening, for example, I had payments come in through, passive income streams, but because I was also reusing, past trainings, I had somebody who had never met me before, wasn't a part of my world, find one of my posts that talked about a training. She signed up for it, watched the training, went through my group and found a link that I wasn't promoting. Like she found one of my links to a 30-minute call. She booked that. She had such a awesome breakthroughs throughout that call that she messaged me after the call and was like, all right, how do I upgrade to one-on-one? Right. And that was that was one of, and then I had another, I had mastermind clients who came in because she was in a mastermind with me. One of the peoples were in a mastermind with me, and just because of who I am and our relationship and me, standing in my own power and feeling worthy to, be in that space with her, she came over into my mastermind. So, there's a lot of things that aligned in the way the universe, and that was a huge thing, is I did the work of reusing my stuff, right? Like I had done the work. So it was easy for the universe to support me.
Mhm.
I think a lot of things is like when life is lifing, when things are happening and you're not utilizing the work that you've already put in, you are making major blocks for the universe to support you. It's just like you're just putting up all this resistance. And so for me, it was like, all right, I'm leaning back. Universe, you've got to take this. Like, I need you to do the heavy lifting of this. I'm going to do my part. I'm going to, support my clients. I'm going to capitalize the things that I've already done. And
Mhm.
now it's going to be your turn to bring it in. And it did. But it
Yeah.
was because like I was willing to, I had already done the foundational work, and I
Mhm.
was willing to reuse it or look at my offer suite and say, what can I turn passive? What can I make even easier? What can I create that wouldn't put more work on me? Selling into the future was another one where I was like, all right, I
Mhm.
know I'm not gonna, like I can't handle anything right now to live program or anything like that, but I know I'm going to have something, when I have more space, come September. So I
Mhm.
started selling into the future. I was selling offers that weren't going to happen until September, October.
Mhm. Gosh, I love that story. Not that you had any drama. That's not what I mean.
I get it. I get it.
But there's so much goodness in that story and so many things that people can pick and pull from for that. I mean, obviously you planted a shit ton of seeds over the years, which is amazing and what people need to be doing. Plant seeds, people. If you take anything away, plant seeds. And so, and then you did the work and you were smart enough to then put that all together. And obviously, you must have had a huge level of trust
Yes.
that it was gonna work out, even if you
Well,
some tears,
it's not like I had the trust that it was going to be the best month ever, and what I had the trust was the universe. Like I trusted that I was going to be okay. So
Mhm.
even if I had a low month, or even if I had something that wasn't working out or whatever, like I trusted that like the universe has got me and I've got me. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So like we'll figure it out. Like I'll like my spirit team and we will figure it out, whatever comes. And so it's that level of trust.
Mhm.
Like not, I see a lot of people where, when they struggle to trust, it's got to start with trusting yourself.
Mhm.
And a lot of people will go wrong where they'll try and trust the universe first.
Interesting. Okay.
Right?
I
It's
could
like they can give their
never thought of
they
it,
give
but
their
yeah, I could
power
see
away to
that.
their spirit guides. It's like the
Yeah.
spirit guides have the answer. They're the ones that are leading me. When
Yeah.
that's not actually true. You are leading, and then
Mhm.
your spirit team supports you. But
Mhm.
you've got to be doing the things. So you've got to trust yourself,
Mhm.
because then you can actually trust your spirit team.
Mhm.
And then
Mhm.
you let them do the heavy lifting.
Mhm.
Right? It's like, I trust you to do the heavy lifting, but I don't trust me to actually have the things in place for you to do the like, no, you've got
Mhm.
to trust yourself first.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a really good point. And I guess because I don't have that point of view personally, I've never thought of it that way. So that's really great. I appreciate that perspective. That'll help lots of people out there that are obviously getting that a little confused and maybe feeling a little bit lost or stuck because of that, right? I mean, they could be wondering why nothing's moving. Well, there you go. She just helped you.
Right.
So yeah, that's amazing. I love that. And I've really also too found, and feel free to add on to this as well, as asking questions, listening, being open, because you have to ask, you have to receive, and that whole piece of it too goes into being able to take some actions of some different ideas that come to you.
Right. Well, and
So,
so one of the things that I help my clients with is that connection with their spirit team. And one of the things that I always recommend, so they'll come to me and they're like, it's silent. I'm not hearing any messages. And I'm like, okay, well, did you ask them why you're not hearing any messages? And they're like, no. Like, well, ask them why. Or you know what I mean? Or and it's so funny because like a lot of times people will, when working with their intuition, get really frustrated because they're not understanding the message or they're not seeing it the way they think they should see it. Or they're getting nothing in their mind, they're getting nothing.
Mhm.
And it's literally like, okay, like I'll tell to my spirit team, like, I'm not understanding you. So can you show me a different way? Can you show me it through this? Like,
Mhm.
and I will get like super sarcastic. Like my spirit team, like we're sarcastic. So, I will just be like, all right, that don't make sense to me. I need you to use a different word, right? Like, or, okay, I'm getting really annoyed with you right now. You're not giving me the messages. Like, come
Mhm.
on, what's going on? And I will say, like, why am I not receiving the message? One of the, it's one of the things is like, I'll go to my spirit team. It's like a lot of times people are like, how do I get more clients? How do I make more money? Or when will I? This is a big one. Like, right? When will I be a millionaire? When will I? And that's not the question you want to ask ever. Like any question with will, the answer is your free will determines it.
Mhm.
Okay. But like back in 2019, I remember asking my spirit team, what did I need to shift in order to attract more clients? I was a lot like I had programs, 5 people in, 2 people in, but I wasn't growing more than that. Like, especially in that time, it was like 1 to 2 people in programs. And I was just like, what is going on? And so it was through that questioning with spirit of like, okay, what do I need to let go of? What do I need to step into? What's going on here?
Mhm.
Where am I out of alignment? Things like that. And one of the things that they said is when you can be genuinely happy for one person coming
Mhm.
and you really anchor in the impact that one person in an offer can have, you will
Mhm.
attract more people.
Mhm. I believe
So
it.
it was like, okay, so I knew the work that I had to do. So that was when I had one person in a program in December of 2019. And the next offer that I had, and I really anchored into that and really worked through all of that. The next offer, I had 6 people come in January. The next offer that I launched in March had 24 people in. And then since
Wow.
then, it's like I've had 60 people in offers, and 30 to 60 is my sweets, depending on the type of offer.
Yeah.
But or I had like 400 people into a free masterclass, like things like that, where it took that questioning with my spirit team of
Mhm.
like, what do I need to let go of? What do I need to work on in order to receive the thing?
Mhm.
And then once I did the action, did the work, I received the more clients.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. I love it. I love questioning. I love hearing how other people and coaches question. It's just one of the most powerful tools that we can use to get guidance. Like it's incredible. And to be able to shift, feel better, grow your business, whatever, get my dogs to be quiet, like whatever it is. So, which I
Yep,
do
yep.
use when people come to my house. I'm always like, they're always amazed. They're like, you're so good at getting your dogs quiet. I'm like, I know, I've got the secrets. So
I love that.
so I appreciate you sharing about your secrets. I love it, which obviously are for everybody and on your clients. So that's really cool. So anything else you want to share with the audience. This has been an amazing conversation. I am so grateful, and I'm just so blessed to now know you. I feel like I
Yeah.
never know you, even though you're in California. So
I would love this. You know, I said my biggest thing is quiet the noise, quiet the outside noise. Stop giving a fuck what people think.
Mhm.
Um, you know, like I have, this is gonna get a little TMI, but like I have a saying, like, if you're not sleeping in my bed, if you didn't come out of my hoo-ha, right? If you're not paying my bills, I don't give a fuck what you think. So
Mhm.
it's the same thing, like even with my parents, like my dad called me yesterday and, was making some comments about my work because he's like, you work from home, you're a coach, like, and I'm just like, he's like, what are you doing? I'm like, none of your fucking business. Plain and simple, none of your fucking business. And he just like looked at me and I was like, well, don't be an ass then.
Yeah.
And I think that's where people aren't willing to stop caring what people who really don't matter. Like if my kids had an issue or my husband had an issue, that's when I'm gonna care. But
Mhm.
some random Joe Schmo or even, my parents, if they don't get it, they don't gotta get it.
Yeah.
And when we stop letting other people's limiting beliefs, because
Mhm.
that's what judgments are, it's just their own, it's just a reflection of their own limiting beliefs,
Mhm.
their own blocks, their own circumstances project onto us. Like when we stop doing that, gosh, the sky's not even the limit, like where we can go.
Yeah.
So stop giving a fuck what people think.
Yes.
Quiet the noise, stop giving a fuck what people think, and take the action. Do the things so you can set yourself up for long-term financial success. So many people are focused only on the short wins, the short hits, the month-to-month goals, and they're not looking at the overall picture quality of life that they want to have, and what 10 years from now their business could look like.
That's excellent advice, especially heading into the new year. So, yeah. So, everyone out there, if you're not doing that, take some time to do that now. So, awesome. Well, how can people find you? Anything you wish to share about that you offer? Sky's the limit. I don't care. Go for it.
Yeah. So um you can find me on Facebook, Jennifer Donovan. You can also find me my group, the Intuitive Business Lounge. I am on Instagram. It's just I repurpose content on there. So
Oh, great.
but you can find me because it also will link you to my Facebook page. So I'm at it's Jennifer Donovan. And then I'm also on TikTok at it's Jennifer Donovan.
Okay, gotcha. Cool. Well, thank you so much. I will obviously put all of your information in the show notes. I highly recommend that you connect with Jennifer, and maybe she'll heart one of your stories too. So I love it. And thank you so much. You are amazing. And I'm just really blessed and grateful for you. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Bye, everyone.